Hello, this is Pam Electric Ghost, and we have, do you pronounce it KORA, or how do you pronounce your stage name?
Yeah, it's KORA. It's perfect.
Okay, great. Sorry about the time conversion. It must have been off because we have like daylight savings, so maybe that threw it off.
No, I literally don't have any problem. I just got back from the gym and I'm ready.
Okay, great. So I was looking at your Spotify and
Yeah,
bunch of your tracks, and I was gonna try to talk about that, but I'll start with the questions.
of
So,
course.
but I'll just give a little intro. So this is Fam Electric Ghost. I have this podcast. I've had it for 2 years. We've interviewed over 40 artists worldwide. We're a part of Spotify,
Okay.
and we have over 21,000 listens since 2018.
Okay.
So,
Amazing.
so we just like to interview indie artists from around the world. We've interviewed musicians, actors, producers, graphic artists, every type of person that's into art.
Okay.
So the first thing we like to do is go through the questions that we like to ask. So one of the first questions is like, when did you first get into music and at what age?
So literally, my mother told me she put a violin in my hands when I was 1 year and a half. Can you imagine? So that's when I actually started, but then I think I became like efficient at maybe 2 or 3 years because
Were your parents musicians?
not at all. Like, well, my father plays a bit of guitar, and he really taught me what rock is, and that's why I have this rock atmosphere in my music. But they are not like professional musicians or anything. My mother doesn't really play anything.
Hmm. So what's your primary instrument as a musician?
So I played the violin for 15 years. I played a lot in with an orchestra as well, and we made so many concerts in Argentina. We played on the TV. So
Hmm.
my main, like, I'm more comfortable with violin, but then I also learned like piano for 5 years when I was young. So I can really compose with piano if I wish, and I play the guitar, but mainly for composing as well. But I can play if I want. But my main instrument is like violin.
That's interesting. That's cool because like most of the artists I talk to are like piano or guitar. But it's cool to
Yeah,
have a classically trained
yeah,
artist is interesting because that gives you some different dynamics in your music.
yeah. I think it really changed like my approach to music. Like I don't see notes as notes, but when I listen to music, I hear the notes. I don't know. I hear like me or re. You know what I mean? Like it's really really
Yeah.
different. And I
Yeah,
have yeah. So
that's
this
interesting. I've heard people talk about music as like sound paintings. Like that term was brought up by Jimi Hendrix back in 1968
okay.
to describe Electric Ladyland. And they asked him like, what are all these weird sounds? Because he had like very atmospheric sounds for a guitar player. He had like seagulls and weird white noise and things that were like evocative, like cosmic things. And they asked him what did it mean. He said, well, it's a sound painting. And
Yeah,
I think that's a good way. I've talked to musicians, a lot of musicians, and sometimes they'll describe their music in terms of
yeah.
like painting, which is interesting.
It is indeed.
So how you been working on music since you were like 2 years old? Since you were given your violin?
No, I mean, it's really so. I started with my violin doing the Suzuki method. I don't know if you heard about it. So there are books, and you improve your level.
Hmm.
My last class, I live now in Paris, and I was having classes in Argentina. Now I stopped. And my last class, I was playing like Vivaldi and Bach.
Okay,
Concert for two violins, so that
awesome.
was my last level. But then I started with piano, like as well, like little songs there and there, and then guitar was more like a teenager dream. Like I went to this professor after seeing some Lindsay Lohan movie where she played the guitar, and it was like, I want to play Eric Clapton, I want to play
Hmm.
slash solo. So I started with guitar, electric and acoustic, and singing. I sang for 15 years. I always loved to sing, and I was actually singing not too bad. So I was motivated by my parents and friends. So that's how I started working. But if you meant professionally, like creating music,
Yeah, I guess like when did you actually decide that you had the talent and you were going to write your own material? Because a lot of people, like a
so
classical musician, you'll play like Bach, you play Beethoven, you'll play like in a concert level, but it's not your own material.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Which is
when
really
did you
funny.
decide you were gonna actually go into like indie music and write your own material?
Yeah, so I have a long answer and a short answer. You want the long answer?
You can do both. We can talk.
Okay. So I always thought I was never gonna be able to compose. Like I saw this as a big, really like talent that few people had, and I was like, damn, I plan so many things and I sing, but I'm just not able. And then I was interning for BNP Paribas. So for an intern, the salaries are quite high, right? So
Hmm.
I was going to every concert I loved, and I felt so bad not being on stage. I was like, Jesus, that's what I loved most. And it's kind of pain I didn't experiment anywhere else. Like not getting a job into Goldman Sachs, I don't care. Like it's not a problem. Or not getting into, I don't know, Dior, okay, it's fine. But I was so painful when it was on the public. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try, because nowadays, like, it's easier for musicians to get there, and I will just try. And that's how I did my first song. And then I sent to my mother a vocal, like, look at this, I'm just playing around. And she was like, Jesus, like, I will show it to, she has a friend who has a studio in Argentina, a friend from childhood, like, nothing professional. And he was like, listen, this is not bad at all. So when I went to Argentina, visit my family,
Hmm.
thanks to that guy who saw me, like, he decided to produce me, and I made my first EP, which is the rock one, who is in Spotify right now.
Which one is that? Is that
Like so the one who has my picture, like the main picture, who is like in almost all the tracks but off, like in all the songs but off, are my first
but yeah, because you have like
Argentinian made
yeah, because you have like Off, Worry Doll, Pandora's Box, Rambling
yeah,
Heart, My
exactly,
Dark Room.
exactly, the ones that have the same picture.
Okay, those are the ones. Yeah, yeah. But what was interesting is I was going to ask you your influences, but I was going to point out what I hear in some of these songs. I hear like I don't know if you know Juliana Hatfield, Liz Phair.
Okay.
I hear like the female singer, indie songwriters like Lana Del Rey.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm hearing bits and pieces of Best Coast. So it's interesting because like one of your songs had kind of like a synth kind of pad that was really interesting, and then the other ones are more rock, like
Yeah,
indie rock, more like Juliana
exactly.
and Lana Del Rey. And that's interesting because you had that kind of orchestral synth like pad on one of
Oh.
the songs, and then you had this kind of like Lana Del Rey vibe on some of the other ones. And then you have a couple of acoustic songs that kind of remind
Yeah,
you like Liz Phair or
yeah,
Juliana Hatfield. And that's really cool because I really like indie
thank you.
female songwriters, and I think they're really coming up nowadays. And it's interesting that you're doing like the guitar work, which I think is more when the singer songwriter writes on a guitar or plays a guitar, it's very like you get into a window into their kind of soul as a musician.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think it makes it more vulnerable.
yeah.
It makes it like there's less produced, but there's a lot more like emotional impact. That's what.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's not a problem, but it's kind of an issue I face, because since I write with my guitar, it's literally like a bit less produced or less instruments, and I had this problem with the producer. I was like, no, don't add anything,
Yeah.
It's just like pure and sad, but it is like I felt it. But now I'm trying to go. I mean, I'm still composing with the guitar, but my new songs have like a guitar bass, and I have like a beat maker now, and he makes it more electro, but
Okay.
it's still being created with the guitar, because I don't want to lose that. But
Right. Yeah. I think that
yeah,
that's really because a lot of music today, I think some of it they go into the digital audio workstations and they kind of overproduce,
exactly.
and it's
Yeah,
like they kind
yeah,
of lost the art of like one of the great songwriting talents is the use of open space.
yeah,
If you listen to some of the great songs that were produced over the last like 40 years, the ones that actually don't have that leave some room. I was
Mm-mm-mm.
listening to like Roger Waters was
Yeah.
interviewed.
Oh my God, I
He
love
was
him.
interviewed and he said like one of the key things he tells any musician he ever talks to is like leave enough space
Yeah, yeah.
in your song so you can have the kind of people can have this I think it gives
Trip.
yeah I think but also it's like you gotta be confident in your music to leave the
Yeah.
space because if you're not confident then sometimes you fill the space
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it makes you feel like a little insecure. And then your playing has to be more accurate, and you have to be kind of dead on when you leave space.
Mm,
But yeah, I think it's just more like powerful when you do that. You know, like I like the track
yeah.
you have there, like come from that direction. So then
Thanks.
the next question would be like, well, who are your influences? And
Yeah. So you said Roger Waters. I obviously love Pink Floyd. Like my father is a huge fan, and he showed me like the wall when I was 6. So you can imagine I know them very well.
yeah,
I saw them in concerts lots of times. Then I'm really, really into rock. Like my favorite band of the whole earth is Muse. I really follow them. I saw their concerts. I'm a really, really huge fan. Like Bliss was one of my anthems.
mm-hmm.
Then I like Lana Del Rey a lot. Like I think like Summertime Sadness, and she's a really, really, really good creator. Like
Mm-hmm.
I worship her. Then Nirvana is a
Or
must.
Kurt Cobain, yeah, Kurt Cobain,
Yeah, Jesus.
yeah,
Amy Winehouse, Courtney Fox, Courtney Love, sorry.
yeah, yeah.
What else? The Strokes, The Smiths. I really like The Smiths.
Okay.
You see which kind of band? Like Gorillaz, Jesus Gorillaz. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah. I mean, I'm very inspired by Gorillaz with my own band because my band
Oh
is
my god.
a collection is a made up band of characters.
Yeah.
You know, Josephine
Oh,
Josephine Electric is my alter ego.
okay.
I created like a female lead singer using a Roland vocoder. So I
D'accord.
used like a VT4 vocal transformer, and I created Josephine
Oh,
Electric is my alter ego, and she's the lead singer of a
that's so
band
cool.
full of ghosts. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like so her sister's in the band, she's in
Oh
the
my
band,
god.
and then I'm in the band. They're always like my daughter's an artist, and we're drawing characters to kind of match.
Ah, it's
Um,
awesome. It's
yeah, so it's
awesome.
going to be some animation stuff we're working on. But yeah. So I always like conceptual music, like
Mm,
what Bowie used to do with Ziggy,
yeah,
like Pink Floyd, the
yeah,
Who with like Tommy and Quadrophenia.
yeah,
Yes, I mean I'm a synth guy, so I will listen to guys like Keith Emerson, you know the Yes, like I mentioned, and anybody that uses like synth wave, so the Cure,
Mm-mm-mm.
Bauhaus, a lot of stuff that's like analog. I'm very much
Yeah,
an analog guy. I have like Moogs
yeah,
and Prophets, just because I think some of the soft synths today have kind of people don't really realize that original electronic musicians, like Keith Emerson, and,
yeah,
guys like Roger Waters, they used like very elaborate analog synths that have
yeah,
character, and some of the digitals don't have the character of those analog. So I'm kind of a big proponent of using, like a Hammond organ or using like a Moog Mini Moog or a Prophet
Mm-mm-mm.
5, because I think those instruments like are evocative. They're like used on Les Paul or like a Stratocaster or something. I think it just gives you more emotional impact if you use
It's true.
an analog synth rather than some kind of soft synth. Um,
Mm-mm-mm.
but that's just my opinion. But
No, no, it's really interesting, and it's true that it adds something like definitely more like special, maybe.
yeah, well, if
Not.
you're an electronic musician and you're trying to be evocative and show emotion, like a Moog can show a lot of emotion. You can do a
Yeah.
lot with it. A Hammond B3 can do a lot. So
Mm-mm-mm.
if you're using instruments like that, then you can really show emotion. And the keyboardist sometimes, in today's world, if you're using a laptop and a MIDI keyboard, it's kind of hard to actually display the emotion that somebody does on an acoustic
Yeah.
guitar.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But so if you were going to describe your writing style or genre, what would you put it in? Would like dark pop, indie, alternative? What would be your description of your genre?
I think for now my project is like dark pop, as you said, or like maybe some acoustic rock. But
Yeah,
as I mentioned before, we're going more into maybe pop and.
synth
But
wave,
it's
maybe some synth wave, like or
yeah, like there's these melodies.
electronica, maybe.
Mm, not quite. Like
Not
I,
EDM, not techno or trance.
yeah, I might like rap a bit, or like or do a bit hip hop with
Oh, a little
pop.
hip hop. Okay, yeah. Well, I think it's cross genre is really interesting because if you look at hip hop pulls from jazz, they pull from rock.
Yeah, yeah,
They
exactly.
so hip hop is kind of wide open. You get a guy like Kendrick Lamar, and he's got
Mm.
like jazz bass players and jazz drummers.
Yeah,
playing on his music, and he's taking samples of obscure soul records from the 70s. And so then you get a lot of cross genre.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I don't want to be fixed in a gender, actually. Like, I have so many inspirations, and I don't want to, like, I just, when I create, I don't really choose a gender. I just have this melody, and then I sing on it.
Yeah, so you just let the song kind of go where it's gonna go. You don't say, "Well, I'm gonna make a trap hit. I'm gonna make an EDM hit." You make what it is, and then you find out, okay, well, there's other things I can do.
Exactly. Maybe they say, like, you could, like because I have a little team, and maybe they say, you could sing faster, or change this. But well, for the context, so this first EP I have, I did it on my own, but now I have a team. So
you're working with like a producer, and it has a studio.
a studio.
Well,
and
how does that
sound
work?
engineer.
Do you send the demo, or do you physically go to the studio and work with the producer?
So I go. This is like, so I have a manager and an artistic director. It's like an independent label. And so I go to the studio. I send the track, but I trained before, so I just go and sing, and we record it live.
That's cool. So then the producer will decide if they want to throw other instruments on, or
not really. Like, I'm really picky. I'm really hard with the instrumentals, so I send my melody. Okay. Then they put it on electronic, and I say if they have to change something. But when I go to the studio, the instrumental is not meant to change.
Cool. So you don't let the producer go and put other stuff in. You keep your original. You're playing all your parts. I guess the question is, some artists will bring a demo and then let the producer actually change it or do it with their their own instruments.
Oh, well.
Playing.
The connection got lost a bit, so I didn't hear the last.
I guess my question is, some artists. I was talking to an artist that he's a keyboard player. He uses a MIDI keyboard. He brings it to his producer, and the producer will go and take the MIDI and then run it through a different machine, or actually change the actual composition.
Okay, yeah. For my EP, that's what happened. There were musicians maybe that will take something to the song. Like in Poison, there's a piano. Yeah. So I didn't know the piano will be there. Like, my producer proposed it, and then I saw the result. I was like, that's cool. Okay. So yeah, for my actual music, it happened. Now I'm more into, like, the track is done, and that's how it's meant to stay, unless my producer says, like, we should change it. But normally when I'm in the studio, it's done.
So you're the guitar playing, that's you playing guitar. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because some artists will do that, and then they're like, okay, I'll let a session musician go in and actually really do it. But but singer-songwriters who are really into have their vision. It's hard to get other people to get your exact vision, unless you agree with their interpretation. So you have to agree with their interpretation of a studio musician to let it be on the track. But it's interesting.
It's really hard to do that, but sometimes it works really fine. Like for Worry Doll, the bass was added after I left Argentina to come back to Paris, and the bass was added after, and I really think it looks cool, and that it gives something else to the song that wasn't there. So, but it's hard to say, like, okay, I give you a free pass.
Well, because I'm real, I have my own studio, and I have all these analog synths. And the thing about analog synths is I'm not sending MIDI signals. I'm actually taking it straight to tape. Yeah. So it's hard to have that exact thing reproduced by another musician. And so I do have things that are on sequencers that are MIDI that they could take, but when I have my Moogs or my Hammonds and stuff, I don't really want somebody rewriting that.
I understand.
But it's interesting. So if you were gonna say where you're actually based out of, would I say you're a French musician, or would you rather be tagged as an Argentine musician?
Well, I'm not really. My nationality is Milan, and when I was in Argentina, I studied in a French school, so I like to think as myself as an international musician because
Okay.
I sing in Spanish, English, French.
Okay.
But then I'm obviously targeting the French market at the moment. But for instance, like I met this producer from the United States, and he sent me a track, and I'm working with him right now, and he will be on my new EP, like an
Okay.
important part of my EP. So even if I am in France and I like to be in the French market most of all because I plan to stay here for now. I don't like. Yeah, I wouldn't tag myself at all. But
Okay. So I can say you're an international singer-songwriter.
yeah, I mean,
That's
but
good.
yeah,
That's
I
probably a
did
better.
a. Sorry.
That's probably a good approach to say you're an international singer-songwriter.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just because well, when we tag our podcast, we like to kind of, some people say, "Well, I'm a Seattle musician,
Oh,
or I'm a musician from Los Angeles." So we say Los Angeles singer songwriter.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, you contact Paris then.
Okay.
Yeah. I started here. My team is here, and
Mm-hmm.
but I have a collaboration with the United States, and I mean I did a featuring with Maxi Trusso, who's an Argentinian like kind of big musician. So
That's
I
cool.
don't really stay only in France.
No, it's wide open today, man. I've actually
Yeah.
collaborated with like artists in Denmark,
Mm-mm-mm.
collaborated with artists in Los Angeles and
Yeah.
Canada. So you never know who you're gonna work with.
It's so
Uh,
amazing. Like
yeah. I'm actually,
can be done in your place. Like
yeah, because I'm actually doing, like, I do this podcast, but our next phase is in next year we're gonna do some Facebook Live concerts, and I've got two bands that were on the show,
so
one from
cool.
Sweden and one from Atlanta, Georgia, and I've got like them booked to do, like, each of them are gonna do like an acoustic kind of unplugged concert from their home studio, and then we're gonna put it on Facebook Live on my channel
That's so
at
cool.
Phantom Electric Ghost, and then I'm gonna do a show, like, so everybody's gonna do 20 minutes from their home studio. And the
Okay.
idea is, like, we're trying to get a lot of the artists that have been on the show to do that in 2020. We're trying to set that up. But yeah, this is something we're doing on top of the podcast. But it's really cool
Okay.
today that you can do that. That the fact,
I know, right?
yeah,
Like
that I'm talking to international people through a cell phone.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. It's amazing.
and
It's
then we're able
amazing.
to get it out there on Spotify and Apple
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Google
yeah.
Play. And what we like to do is, like, we started this show because there are some people out there in the podcast world that actually make you pay like $100 or $200 to
Mm,
get an interview. And we're like,
yeah.
well, we think, I'm a musician and I just want to go and interview artists because I like artists. And I end up getting paid through the back end because I have sponsors. So it's like
Yeah,
like
yeah.
radio. So I'm
Exactly.
like, so I don't think you should charge artists that kind of money. I
Exactly.
think you
Yeah.
should
No, I completely
I think
agree.
you should just interview them like a radio station or something and just do it. Because that's what we've been doing, and it's just really cool because you get to talk to people like yourself. There, you're the first musician I've talked to. I've been wanting to talk to somebody that has a classical background, and you're the
Cool.
first one I've actually, like, approached some violinists and some actual pianists who are in the classical genre,
Mm-mm-mm.
but I guess they weren't really into like the podcast world. They hadn't kind of figured
Okay.
out that they wanted to be involved in that. So I'm really happy that you came on the show because you're kind of cross genre. You're doing a lot of things, but
I'm really happy you invited me. It's
that's,
an honor. My first interview as an artist, actually, like as a singer, because in the violin I had interviews, but
yeah,
my
different
first
as
one
a singer
as
songwriter.
KORA.
Yeah, it's cool. That's cool. So when you think about the future of music, like you were talking about, maybe bringing some hip hop elements, do you really see the future as this more cross genre mixing of, different styles? Do you think that's the future of, like, music today?
So I think I have not a negative, but a bit of a sad vision of the future of music. I believe that instruments are disappearing
Yeah.
generally, like
Yeah.
for the tubes at least, like top five songs. I don't believe like anyone played any instrument on them. Then it's legit because they're really good songs. Sorry, the connection is bad.
Yeah, I came back, but
Okay, okay.
yeah, but I totally agree because I've been talking to I talk to a lot of indie musicians that actually are musicians, and I do talk to DJs and,
Yeah.
electronic artists, but I kind of stress that my preference is always to talk to musicians because I think it's kind of like a dying thing. Because people can get into Pro Tools on their Mac and
Yeah.
they can go and write something, but they're not necessarily trained as a musician, and
Yeah.
they can make something that has a hook, and they're a producer and they can actually create music. So it's not that they can't create music, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I was all I'm trained on clarinet, keyboards, pianos,
Yeah.
and I just think the musicians people need to understand that music is created by musicians primarily.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
there's something
Exactly.
about seeing somebody play a piano live or playing, or a cello or a
Mm,
violin,
mm, mm, mm.
somebody playing a Moog. Like my idea of electronic music when I talk to people, um, you know, like original electronic music came from these Moogs and the Prophet
Yeah.
Fives and the DX7s and CX 80 CS80s. These are instruments. Stevie Wonder
Yeah.
created like songs in the key of life on the Dream Machine, which is like a CX1, which was
Mm,
an
mm,
amazing, like it was like a $300,000 machine. He had three tiers. It was fully analog polyphonic. It had like 22-foot pedals. It had a knee control. It had all this expressive capability, and that's why he was able to create some of the songs that are on Songs of Key of Life. And that's like one of the first polyphonic synths. So he could
mm.
actually do like string arrangements that
Okay.
you see like in Village Ghetto Land and songs like that. They have this really heavy, like the really interesting synth, kind of classically inspired synth, because he can play chords. And up
Mm,
till
mm, mm.
then, synthesizers could only do like monophonic notes. You get the
Okay.
CS1, you get the first, like one of the first polyphonic synthesizers that allows you to be expressive, but it wasn't digital, it was analog. So
Yeah.
it had this
Yeah.
kind of like Hammond B3 capability, but it could do all kinds of weird sounds.
Yeah.
And that's why I think people in electronic music have kind of forgotten that,
Yeah. It's
somebody that can play a polyphonic synth or a monophonic like bass solo on a mini Moog, that there's something about doing that versus somebody on a grid popping notes and beats from a soft synth. Not that they
yeah.
can't do it, but sometimes it doesn't have the life.
I know, right? And sometimes, but I have nothing against them because I really understand. Like, it's really political because not everyone had the chance. Like, I went to conservatories. I had a private
Yeah, it
professor.
opens it up.
I have the instruments. I have my parents who had the culture, and I understand not everyone. And I'm happy that people can now like just with the computer. But then when I see like I have a lot of friends who do that, and they're like, they press a button and your melody completely changes, and there's a lot of harmonies. I'm like, man, I'm actually thinking about the harmonies and creating them, and they just push a button.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I think they kind of lose. Like I don't have people that say, "Well, I can't afford an instrument." That's fine, but once you get successful and you do have the
Oh
money,
yeah,
then I
that's
do.
another
Then
thing.
I have a whole argument. Is okay. Then you're
Yeah,
kind of your argument about how you didn't have the money, that doesn't hold water anymore.
I know.
And then
Yeah,
my whole thing is like
that.
when you go to a show, you just see somebody pushing a button and jumping up and down.
yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah,
to me as a musician, I'd like to go and see a guy like a Greg Allman on a Hammond B3, or I
yeah.
want to
Of
see an Eric
course,
Clapton, or I want to see a Bernie Worrell from like Funkadelic actually
of
playing a mini
course.
mode, or like a Keith Townsend, playing, writing, doing what they do. And it's
Yeah, yeah,
something
yeah.
about a live musician. I understand the crowd that doesn't care about that and just likes the beat.
Mm, mm, mm,
But
mm.
there is still a place for musicians. And I would say the one thing I'm heartened by is like companies like Moog had died, and they've
Yeah,
come back, and
yeah,
they're producing like instruments that are very high level. Prophet came back.
yeah.
A lot of these companies came back from the death because there are, in certain genres like Euro, rack, modular, synthwave
Mm.
artists, got bands like Churches. They're playing Juno 106s.
Yeah,
They're
yeah, yeah.
actually taking old, Rolands from the 80s and putting them on
Mm, mm,
stage and
mm.
using them. And you got bands, like Wilco and Radiohead that still do progressive
Yeah,
electronic music. But yeah, there is in the top 10. You don't see that as much. You see some of
yeah,
these bands are like in the bottom 100 that are
yeah.
still
Exactly. Yeah,
doing. They're not as popular, and I think
yeah.
that's
And it.
sad
Yeah,
to not have the popularity. But you're hoping like Kurt Cobain came out of an age where the music had kind of been going that way, and then he
yeah,
brought grunge was like a new
yeah,
version of punk. So I
yeah.
always think that kind of thing can happen in music, and then that will bring musicians back into it.
Yeah, I'm really hoping, like fashion, like now we are wearing what was worn in the 70s, for instance. Like, I really hope people like will redefine rock or other styles, because when I think about it, when I listen to rock,
Mhm.
there are bands like Red Hot Chili Peppers,
Yeah,
like
yeah. Oh,
Radiohead. They're already had like their new songs are amazing, but
yeah,
how long, how
yeah,
long can they still be here? Like Pearl Jam. And
yeah.
I'm like, Jesus, I really hope like someone younger will be as amazing as them, because I'm scared that I don't find that right now. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I interviewed some indie rockers, like Sex with Roller Coasters and some other bands
mm-hmm.
I've interviewed, and there are bands that are inspired by Pearl Jam and Nirvana
Yeah,
and Led Zeppelin and stuff. They want to be there. It's just that the industry isn't pushing them. It's not that they
I know,
don't
right?
exist.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a lot of bands that they
exactly.
exist, but the age of the DJ and the age of the hip hop
Yeah,
producer
yeah,
is
it's true.
overshadowing them. Though
It's true. It's
I
true.
think in different venues, like this venue here, I had 40
Yeah,
artists I've interviewed. Most of them are like, are indie musicians that play.
yeah, yeah,
So we are pushing that in the podcast world, in the SoundCloud world, in the YouTube
yeah,
world.
yeah, yeah,
They're being pushed, but it's just on the general, platform that most people listen to, like radio stations, and when you go into a store to physically
yeah.
buy a record, that's where the gate is still being kept.
Mm-mm-mm.
And indie musicians are not being pushed as much, and MTV is not doing what they did when I grew up.
I know, right?
You have bands like REM, being pushed on MTV. Duran
Yeah,
Duran, which would have never came out anywhere
yeah,
if MTV didn't exist, and it created a place for New Order, a place for New Duran Duran, a place
yeah.
for Depeche Mode. And
Mm-mm-mm.
we need probably another channel like that to. I know we have YouTube, but I think people need to see
Yeah, I
and
agree.
so they can feel them. But
It's true. It's about visibility and what the industry is pushing. That's true. That's true.
yeah,
There certainly are, but they're
yeah, you just got
hidden.
to get yourself onto a festival and get in front of the kids. You can get your management to get you into one of the like, Coachella. Or you could get to one of
Yeah.
these big events. Then the kids can
Mm.
see the bands. But yeah, I think the
Yeah.
kids eventually want. It's like what happened when I was a kid. Disco was real big, but the same producers kept on doing the same sound, and then it
Yeah.
kind of went away because it was like too much. It was like the same thing
Yeah.
over and over.
Yeah.
And I think what happens with like trance and in some of the EDM, it ends up having the same group of producers doing the same thing, and
Yeah.
eventually kids get bored with it. And then I think
Yeah.
like the punk bands or the indie bands will kind of push through because people will
Mm-mm-mm.
want, as they mature, they want to hear. I think people want to hear songs that kind of tell
Yeah.
something about
Yeah.
their life, and that's what's cool about your songs. Like singer-songwriters, that you tell stories, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
people feel something in your song that they can relate to. And I think
Mm-mm-mm.
that's always going to exist. There's always going to be people who want to hear that. Right?
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So are you going to be doing like any touring?
So I'm not developed enough for that, but certainly my team is gonna plan something as soon as my EP is out. But I think we're mostly producing and creating right now in order to have a bigger portfolio. But for the song that I made with Maxi Truso, so he told me if he comes to Paris, we will present it. So that will be the show that I know that can happen. But then
So you
that's
do a show
the
in Paris? You do a physical show there?
if he comes, yeah, we will present the song where I featured, but not personal songs for now, shows
Are
for
you
now.
working on any music videos to put things on YouTube as the videos?
Music videos, we're clipping, yes, for the new songs. We're clipping a lot right now.
Okay, that's cool.
So, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, because that's another way to get out there. Because I mean, if you can get a big YouTube hit, then you can
Yeah,
actually get booked. But then
yeah,
you have
it's
to be
true.
prepared to get booked.
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's true.
but
I mean, singing, I don't have any problem. It's just as I'm not a professional guitarist, that will be like finding a one. But
well, maybe
singing, I don't have any
you
problem.
get a second guitarist, and then you can be there.
Yeah,
And then you have some confidence if they're you get that other person to be on stage with you.
yeah, it's true.
The stage version of the band,
Mm-mm-mm.
that's always it's always cool to actually see how your songs get interpreted when you play them live. I always
Yeah,
like that because I go to New York and Boston because I'm in the East Coast of the U.S.
Okay.
And yeah, New York is always really cool because the clubs in New York still like to hear new music.
Yeah. Okay.
So you might go into a club with only 300-400 people, but it's still
Okay.
a New York crowd of 300 or 400 people is pretty cool because
Yeah, of course.
there's a lot of people who are like music lovers. There's
Yeah.
journalists and bloggers, so you get a lot of good feedback.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, New York is a great place to play. I mean, Los Angeles is a good place to play in the
Okay.
U.S., but New York is always cool. Places like CBGB's where the Talking Heads played.
Okay.
That's a really great club. That's one of the premier clubs in the U.S. The Whiskey a Go Go in L.A. That's a big one. But
Okay.
yeah. So we'd love to
I
see
take
you
the
play.
info.
We'd love to see you play like the Whiskey a Go Go or CBGB's.
Amazing.
That'd be cool.
I will try one day.
Yeah, so we really love having KORA, having you on the show. And if you have more music coming out, we've had bands come on 3-4 times to talk about their releases. I've had talked to a couple bands that have talked about at least 2 of their albums.
Okay.
We actually do shows where we can go through every song on an album.
Oh,
So
amazing.
if you've got any new material coming out for 2020, let us know, and we can have like an album release show where we'll talk about the material.
Amazing. There is a lot of material coming up, so I will
Yeah,
I will
cool.
let you know when it's out there.
Yeah, because we're already starting to book for like December, January, February. So yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, we always
Amazing.
like to book ahead. So if you know when you're going to come out, let us know and we can get it on the schedule.
As soon as I know, I let you know. Thank you.
Links and yeah, as they come out, it'll come out in the next couple hours, and you'll get the links will start migrating through the net. And yeah, we also like attach your hyperlinks, so we'll attach your Twitter, your Instagram, and your Facebook, and your Spotify to the actual episode.
Amazing. Everything is all my links are in YouTube. Otherwise, I can send it to you or
Yeah.
on
If you have your own
SoundCloud.
web page or something, send me that, and then I can link that too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and everybody go listen to KORA on Spotify and everywhere else you listen to, and download and tell your friends. She's a really awesome singer-songwriter, and you should support
Thank you.
indie music because musicians need to be supported. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you a lot for inviting me. Have a great Sunday.
Thank you.
Bye.